Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for the Ultimate Fighter 24 finale, but before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldon.com. I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can buy my first novel, an action adventure called The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website or on Amazon.com if you have some sort of like e-reader or device like that. Also, for just $1.99 on Amazon.com or on my website, you can buy some of my short stories and short story collections, starting with the Land of the Wooden Statues. Then there's the Horror Collection, and finally the Fantasy Fable Collection. You can buy links to these will be provided on the description. So, onto this card. I actually like this card quite a bit. I thought the main card was a lot of fun. There's some good. Title fight was good. Benavides versus Cejudo was good. Cannonier versus Cutelaba was fun. Got a finish from McMahon. Masvidal versus Ellenberger was starting out to be good, but that was kind of weird. Moreno looked pretty good. Ron Hall did his thing. Rob Font looked good. Some good prospect performances here. So, yeah, it was actually just overall a pretty good night of fights. As far as my picks go, I did pretty good. Got 9 out of 12. 3 I missed are Anthony Smith versus Elvis Mutapchik, Ryan Hall versus Gray Maynard, and Jared Cannonier versus Ion Cutelaba. As far as bonuses go, McMahon and Smith won Performance of the Night, while Cannonier versus Cutelaba took home Fight of the Night. Okay, so, in the main event, Demetrius Johnson defeated Tim Elliott by unanimous decision. Elliott started out real strong in the first round, almost getting that guillotine finish. I was actually somewhat surprised. I knew that like Elliott was like just funky and unorthodox enough to be able to possibly snatch one of those. But Johnson, man, that guy is just—he's so good. You know, he made the adjustment, and after the after the first round, starting with the second, he was able to take him down quite consistently. He's also really smart about his positioning. You notice that Johnson never actually gets the hooks on Tim Elliott. He actually he really worked that side mount position quite well. He was attacking with the Kimura and the, like arm locks, and then trying to get the crucifix as well. Um, I can see why he'd do that too. I guess that Johnson feels that he can secure his opponent, who is much bigger and just so scrambly. I mean, just so squirrely, you know. Because if he gets a back, Elliott might be able to turn into him. So I can understand why Johnson might not want to take the back against someone so squirrely and just bigger like Elliott. And then maybe not even take mount as well, because once again, he might be able to get shucked off, oomped, or whatnot. Side mount just seemed like a safe position for Johnson. Even if Elliott like went to like turtle, Johnson was able to like he would threaten to choke like a rear naked choke, and then but not get hooks in, and then just go back to like side mount. He's able to really put him back into side mount. Elliott was really unorthodox enough that like standing, he did quite well, all things considered. It really goes to show that like the way to beat a technical fighter, you know, unless you can out technique the guy, you know, just be unorthodox, you know, like brawl the technician and whatnot. You know, it's just be unorthodox, be you know, have like really broken timing and whatnot, because you know Elliott was not gonna win by you know, trying to out technique Demetrius Johnson. It's just not gonna happen. Um, but this really securely puts Tim Elliott, you know, back in like the UFC. He was on a 3 fight losing streak. He lost like it was like Benavides, I think Makovsky, and what like Bagu Tunov or something like that. I was like, or who was it now? I mean, they gave him like the tough three of the toughest guys. He was always good enough to be in the UFC though. It's just for some weird reason they decided to give him like the toughest guys in the division. He looks better. Kind of fights like Dominic Cruz at times, but he just doesn't have the technical acumen like he does. Um, Kind of actually wonder if Elliott's going to stay at 125. He looked huge for that weight class compared to Demetrius. So it was a good performance for Elliott, and if they ever do, assuming that like Elliott stays in this division, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Johnson versus Elliott too, if Elliott can get like a good win streak going. As far as who Johnson should fight next, I think Benavidez is the best choice. I mean, after that, as far as fresh challengers go, I mean, Hussein Fumiga, he got a win over Dustin Ortiz. I do want to see Formiga eventually fight Johnson because Formiga is like a top five flyweight, and he's been kind of securely a top five, around that area. Yeah, top five, a top five flyweight, and then there's like Wilson Hayes, who actually has lost to Formiga. He was really good, but it's just one of those things where it's like I don't know. He's like number 8 or something like that in the rankings, and like that's kind of where he should be. It just seems like there's no one else to fight him that's a fresh challenger. So, you know, at one point Wilson Hayes was going to get his shot. But otherwise, I think as far as the next appropriate fight, Benavidez is probably the next best fight going for Johnson at this point. Elliott can get like a Baga Utinov, who's coming off a loss to like Horiguchi. Maybe like Luis Smolka. I think Smolka Elliott would be kind of cool too. Both guys really like to work the ground and scramble a lot. So I'd actually like to see Elliott versus Smolka next. Both are coming off losses too. Smolka to Moreno, Elliott to Johnson. Next right after that, Joseph Benavidez defeated Henry Cejudo by split decision. 30-26 was pretty suspicious to me, like, or suspect to me, just because, like, Cejudo dropped Benavidez. Now, this fight was a lot closer than I thought it'd be. For one thing, Cejudo dropped Benavidez in the first, and I said it in the previews, um, and the thing is that I said with Cejudo is that he's not a dangerous guy. He's not a guy that you'd think of really dropping opponents and whatnot. But he looks like he's really making some improvements. Uh, he kind of does a lot of the same combinations. Same striking combinations. He got that knee when he's in close. Because if you watch a fight, it looks like a lot of the same stuff from Cejudo, just pretty polished, pretty good timing. The thing with Benavidez though is I thought Benavidez won rounds 2 and 3 because one thing with Benavidez, he seemed too fast for Cejudo, and Benavidez had a really good exit strategy. So he'd hit Cejudo, and he'd get out before Cejudo can even counter, or he would like duck under the counter. But Cejudo looked good. He looked like much improved in this fight, striking, and this was kind of fight too. Both guys really looked like they wanted to hurt each other, and really like I guess there really maybe there really was some legit heat between the two coming from that season of The Ultimate Fighter because like these two seem to have really wanted to beat each other up pretty bad. Real fun fight though. As far as Benavidez goes, like I said, I think the next appropriate fight for him is Johnson. I mean, he's pretty much beaten everyone, except for I don't think he beat Horiguchi. That's it, But Benavidez has beaten like Cejudo, Bagi Tunov. He beat Moraga. Ortiz. You know, he's beaten just a whole bunch of guys. You know, and while a third fight, I don't think is gonna be much different. I think Johnson's gonna win a third fight between the two. Um, for one, you never know, and two, based upon merit, like Benavidez fight, he just deserves it. Cejudo, two losses in a row actually, one to Johnson, one to Benavidez. No shame in that, but yeah, he should still fight around the top. Fight like the Bagutinovs. Maybe get McCall if McCall is ever healthy. See, for some weird reason, he always seems to have an opponent pull out of the fight or him pull out of the fight. Food poisoning, injury, or whatnot. If you want to give him a step down, you can give him like a Moraga. Uh, so yeah, they're good fights for Cejudo next. So after that, Jorge Masvidal defeated Jake Ellenberger by TKO in the first round. This fight kind of went as I expected it to, like where Ellenberger. It's a confidence thing with Ellenberger. That's the thing with that's the thing with him. If he's able to get off first, Ellenberger's able to get off first, land some hard punches, and he's doing well. His confidence is good. He fights well. When he faces adversity, then he fights really bad. It's like his confidence just shrinks and shrinks. I mean, it was turning out to be a good fight, but I couldn't help but feel that Masvidal was just getting the better of Ellenberger for the most part. Even dropping him at one point, right? He was getting that good flurry with the knees in there, and then I think Ellenberger was going down. Um, but it's just good to see one Masvidal not slow starting. It's also good to see Ellenberger. He was in the fight, at the very least. Um, but yeah, Masvidal was tough as nails. He called out Cerrone next. I think Cerrone might be, if you're going by rankings, he might be a little too high up there. But, Cerrone has shown to want to fight at anyone and everyone. So, wouldn't surprise me to see Cerrone versus Masvidal. But yeah, Masvidal, he's a solid technician, like standing. Uh, he's actually got some pretty slick stand up, good takedown defense, and he's just really tough. So I was questioning his move to welterweight, but seems to be an appropriate one. He doesn't look too bad at this weight class. Um, I don't know if he's gonna get a rematch with Jake Ellenberger because man, that finish was so weird with the toe getting stuck. But I couldn't help but feel that Masvidal was going to eventually win too. Like he was, I can't help but feel that he was just getting the better of Ellenberger regardless. Um, with that said, though, Masvidal should probably get a step up in competition now. He beat like Pearson. Technically, he beat Ellenberger here. He just came off that win over Matt Brown. Um, and yeah, I would probably give Masvidal. It would be a fun fight for Masvidal. It'd probably be like Joban. I don't know if it's not necessarily a step up, but like it's a fun fight against an opponent who's going to engage with him, and yeah, I would actually like to see Masvidal versus Joban next. Ellenberger, he's just like I said, they might do a rematch with this. But I kind of doubt it. Welterweight's too big. Uh, Ellenberger, he has a high water mark right now with just beating Matt Brown. I think he's probably going to stay in the UFC, but he's probably just got more like mid-level guys at this point. Maybe someone come off a loss. Maybe give him like Tumanov or something like that even. Next fight, that Jared Cannonier defeated Ion Cutelaba by unanimous decision. This was a fun fight. One thing that's cool also is that I guess you can consider Jared Cannonier a prospect because he's in his 30s, but at the same time, he doesn't have a lot of fights under his belt. And Ion Kutalaba is a prospect. I mean, he's only 22 years old. He's huge for the weight class. And one thing that's really noticeable about 205, they're finally getting some prospects in here, but they're like very odd. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like you have like Nikita Krylov, Ion Kutalaba, Enrique de Silva, and they're both these like they're all these big. They're all big. They're all stupid tough. I mean, just like stupid tough, stupid aggressive, and really awkward. And they're all young too. Like it's the weirdest thing. They for some reason got like these big, tough, awkward prospects. I mean, there's a couple prospects here and there. Corey Anderson, Devin Clark that are just more of your standard prospects. Then you have like Misha Serkinov, who's actually a bit awkward too. His striking's awkward. He's more of a clinch guy and whatnot. He's super strong. I mean, this guy can like literally has broken the jaw of like Alex Nicholson by squeezing it so hard. And Jared Cannonier, I wouldn't say he's that awkward, but like he is stupid tough. He's pretty good. He has some pretty good stand up, and yeah, so you're getting this influx of new like light heavyweights that are just kind of different from like I guess different from the norm. I guess, or maybe that's 205 and how that's always been. Um, yeah, you know what? Like, there's always had these like awkward guys. Even OSP, he's kind of like this eternally green guy. For every like Ryan Bader, who's more just like a very vanilla guy. Um, he's good everywhere, but not super great at. Well, he's a really good wrestler. Or really cookie cutter guy. You don't get a lot of these like cookie cutter like fighters at 205. I guess is what I'm saying. Anyways, ranting about 205. Ranting rant about like the light heavyweight division aside. Good performance from Cannonier. His takedown defense still needs some work. Ion Kutalaba's takedown ability was actually a lot better than I thought it'd be. Cannonier's pretty tough, like he was taking some pretty hard shots. I thought Kutalaba would push forward on him, and that first round he was kind of doing what I thought he was gonna do. And then Cannonier was finding his timing, landing some big strikes, man. Both these guys have like crazy chins, and but I thought Cannonier, he is just a more technical fighter. And at the very end of the fight, I mean, he's putting his hands down, letting Kutalaba hit him. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty cool, actually. Um, but yeah, Cannonier when he first got into UFC, he fought like Sean Jordan and lost. But like Jordan, he's not the tallest guy, but he's a legit heavyweight, and Cannonier is a small heavyweight. I don't know what he's thinking about cutting to middleweight. I think he looks just fine at 205. I hope he does not decide to go to middleweight. Like I said, I think I think size wise and skill wise, this is a good weight class for him. Like I said, probably needs to work a little more on his grappling. He's good at recovering guard, which is good, But like his overall like just takedown defense just still needed some work. His hands are good. He actually kicks pretty well too. Kutalaba, this guy's still really young. I mean, he fights like a young fighter with like no fear and like nothing to lose. It's like he just pushes forward. He eats hard shots, and he just throws, and it's just like all offense. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna get cut or anything. He's a good fighter. He's actually one of the better prospects in the division, and like I said, still young. Both the guys should probably just fight like more like mid to lower tier guys of the division. As far as like I wouldn't want to see these guys fighting other prospects if they can help it. I'd like to see, like, I don't want to see Cannonier necessarily fight Devin Clark. I wouldn't mind seeing Kutalaba fight Josh Stansbury, though. So I don't know if Stansbury can really be considered a prospect himself at this point. Um, but, Cannonier versus, I don't know, Francis Barroso or something like that. Well, he's coming off a loss. Maybe even just go like an Ed Herman, Jared Cannonier, or something like that. That'd be pretty tough. But it's more like mid to lower tier guys of the division for both, really. Next right after that, Sarah McMahon defeated Alexis Davis by arm triangle in the second round. Tough first round for McMahon. I get that McMahon's a wrestler, but like, I thought she was doing very well in the stand-up. I was, when she went for that takedown against Davis, I was like, I didn't think that was a good idea in the first round. I mean, Davis was hitting her back, but I thought McMahon was hitting her harder. But McMahon was saying in between rounds that she couldn't feel half her face or something like that. So, and then she ended up getting the sub. I thought the submission was actually quite impressive for a couple reasons. One, Alexis Davis is a legit BJJ black belt, and she's never been submitted in MMA. Two, Sir McMahon can sometimes be quite a grinder. She's not the best finisher at times. Sometimes she'll have a good finish, and sometimes, sometimes she just has the most grinding performances. But over here, getting that arm triangle on Davis, that's that's a good look for her. Just the fact that she was hunting for that. I see small incremental improvements with McMahon. I still think she overextends on her punches. I don't think she's that bad in the stand-up, and she does have some power. That like takedown she hit on Davis in the second round was awesome. She just totally it was more like a judo like type of takedown than anything else. Well, I don't know actually. But it was a really nice takedown, regardless. And to get the sub, it was just real good. As far as Alexis Davis goes, though, I think she didn't look that bad. I think she's going to be a tough out for a lot of fighters. But, like, she hasn't really improved either. She's very well rounded. She has a really good jiu-jitsu game. But she's still not defensively sound. She doesn't, despite what McMahon said, doesn't appear to hit very hard. But she does throw a lot and isn't afraid to throw. And Davis can wrestle a bit, and like I said, her submission game and BJJ game are good, but I don't know if I see actual growth with her. But like I said, she's gonna give a lot of fighters a hard time. With that said, Sarah McMahon versus Raquel Pennington should probably be the next fight. Not that far away from each other as far as rankings go. I think Pennington's 5 and McMahon's 7. Both are coming off some big wins with winning streaks, too. McMahon just beat I before this fight, and now Davis. And then Pennington just beat Misha Tate. As far as Alexis Davis goes, I mean, she fight like Kat Zingano. She's coming off a loss. Who else is coming off a loss? Like Caitlin Chukagian, who's coming off a loss to Carmouche. So, there's fights for Alexis Davis as well. Okay, next fight after that, and I guess the last fight of the main card. Brandon Moreno defeated Ryan Benoit by split decision. Moreno is a good prospect. I think he still has some things to work out standing as far as his defense goes, but he's got one heck of a chin. He's very aggressive. His wrestling and grappling actually like pretty good, and his stand up just it's not bad. Um, but like I said, it needs some work defensively. Um, but yeah, he's still only 22 years old, and he seems to have some pretty good athleticism too. I like what I see from him, and Ryan Benoit was, that tough test type of fighter. It's like, okay, Ryan Benoit, his takedown defense isn't the greatest, despite having a wrestling background. Um, but Benoit hits hard. He's got a really good left hook. He's pretty experienced. He can be a bit tough to put away standing. Um, and, Moreno looked good. He's able to strike with Benoit. He got hit as well. But on the ground, I thought Moreno was just a lot better. Um, with that said, because Moreno's got that big upset win over Louis Smolka. See, you'd think that he should get like a step up in competition, but man, I'd like to see this guy just develop more, fight more like tough guys like Ryan Benoit. Um, who else? I mean, I guess a guy that's close to him rankings wise though would be a pretty good test for him, honestly. Brandon Moreno versus Ben Nguyen. Actually would be a pretty good fight. Ryan Benoit, I think he's like trading wins and losses right now. He most recently beat that one dude. I forgot his name from Colombia, and now he just lost this fight. I think he's good enough to be in the UFC. He's a good test. It's kind of weird to say that considering he's still young, but Ryan Benoit could probably like could get better. I think because he's still young, but I think he'd have to change camps. It's just something isn't getting him past the level that he's at. It could be a camp thing. I don't really know. Should fight more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Okay, on the prelims, Ryan Hall defeated Gray Maynard by unanimous decision. I was fine with this decision. I didn't think... I picked Maynard to win this one, but Hall fought the fight that fitted his style. And while he didn't get the sub, and he brought out a performance that some people are gonna like, and some people are just gonna absolutely hate. But it was smart. There's no reason for Hall to box with Maynard. He did kick him in the face quite a bit, so you can't tell me that or you can't say that Hall didn't strike with Maynard. It's just there's something about the look of it too, of like, oh, he's coming at me, I better flop to my back. I better go to my back. There's something about it. It's like an aesthetic thing and whatnot that just looks bad. But then it's also a bad look for Maynard to just not want to engage whatsoever on the ground against Hall, and really just get out of there, in a way that looked like he was like running away from it. That, in a sense, kind of surprised me because, I know I've seen Ryan Hall's videos, some of his, some of his BJJ stuff and whatnot. Dude, this guy's really good on the ground. Don't get me wrong, but it is MMA. I mean, you can throw strikes on the guy on when he's grounded. The other thing is the cage too. Now, if you have like an opponent's head against the cage, I mean, they can't really shrimp out or cut an angle to get the subs and whatnot that they need. So, what I'm saying is, like, I thought Maynard would probably go to the ground with Hall, you know? Like, being a guard player in MMA, even a high level one, isn't like the end all be all anymore, you know? I mean, just the way that MMA is framed. You know, being able to use strikes, fighting in a cage, and whatnot. You know, like yeah, Maynard I guess is right to fear the ground game, but you know, even Stan was saying, you know, there's a point where you like maybe you got to go in there, throw a couple strikes, throw some ground and pound, and just get out or something. You know, because like the way he avoided the ground game wasn't a good look on Maynard's part either. The way that Ryan Hall avoided the boxing game wasn't exactly the greatest like look either for him. I mean, he won the fight. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I don't really know what that performance is going to look like in the eyes of fans and whatnot. Um, Nonetheless, you know, Hall's going to be tough to deal with. He does have that ground game that many people fear and probably should fear in a sense. Um, his stand up probably needs some work. I mean, it's pretty much like it looks like Hall's game is like a lot of kicks from the outside, and once someone gets inside, he'll pull guard or pull the 50-50 or whatnot. Um, you gotta watch out for those leg locks and whatnot. But yeah, he got the win that he needed in the way that he could win. You know, he wasn't going to win by taking Gray Maynard down. He just doesn't have that takedown ability. He wasn't gonna outbox Maynard, and also like he doesn't have enough ways to avoid the boxing um, outside of sometimes he actually ran away himself or pulling guard. He just doesn't seem to have that ability quite yet to avoid the boxing altogether. So good one for Hall. Maynard though, ugh, man, honestly, he's been fighting for a long time, and he didn't get knocked out, which is cool. But you know, he's definitely showing his age. You know, pretty much. With Ryan Hall, he's just fighting more like mid-tier guys of the division. Despite after that, Rob Font defeated Matt Schnell by TKO in the first round. Um, Kind of what I expected. You know, Matt Schnell came out, house on fire. You know, just he went after Font. When Font like took him down, he went for a lot of like subs and whatnot. He's a super aggressive guy. Um, you can tell with Schnell that he's still pretty green in that sense, and that he's so over aggressive. He actually managed to land a couple shots on Font. Um, the thing that really impressed me with Font, though, man, his ground game improved. His ability to take fights down, the way he took the back and whatnot, definitely improved there. And then he's big for the weight class, and he hits hard, and he's pretty accurate. So him getting the TKO doesn't surprise me, considering that Matt Schnell's fought at flyweight, and Rob Font's pretty big for 135. Font's a good prospect at 135. You know, he lost to John Lineker. Um, as John Lineker moves up the ladder, that loss doesn't look so bad. The fact that Font did not get finished in that fight actually makes font, actually, you know, makes font look pretty good. Um, but yeah, this guy, Raw Font, constantly improving. I've had my eye on him ever since he beat really tall guy. I forgot his name. Like pretty much since his first fight in the UFC, he's a good prospect, and he's constantly improving. I think he should fight some higher level of competition at this point, though, but not like you know maybe like a fight to get into that top 15 because he looks like he has a top 15 skill set right now. I don't know if he should necessarily fight like a Yuri Alcantara or something like that, but or like even a Mizugaki at this point. But maybe you know what? Maybe give him those guys because he is solid. You know, he is capable of beating these guys. With Matt Schnell, he should probably just move to flyweight and just get some lower tier guys of the division there. So as that Maestro, Dong Hyun Kim defeated Brendan O'Reilly by unanimous decision. Not much to say about this fight. Dong Hyun Kim had the better takedown ability, better grappling. He was able to stay on top. He didn't have he had some crazy fights, especially against Polo Reyes. This fight was not one of them. This was more of a conservative approach, but he got the win that he needed to. Didn't take as much crazy damage as he has in past fights, and gets enough staying power. Lets him stay in the UFC. Brendan Riley, ever since his season of the Ultimate Fighter, you know, one, I was kind of surprised that they brought him in. Two, I'm surprised he stayed in the UFC as long as he has. But I think at this point, he's not that great of a striker. He can wrestle a bit, but he's just there's no standout skills with him. He's like average at best. I expect he's probably gonna get cut from the UFC at this point. With Kim, should just fight more lower to mid tier guys of the division. Next fight, that Jamie Moyle defeated Kylan Curran by unanimous decision. I thought this was a fun fight. I picked Moyle to win in the way she won. Just she's not big for the weight class. She's just like a little pit bull. It's just like she keeps coming after her opponent. Curran, she looks like she has all the talent in the world. Marketable, young, um, pretty good athlete. Looks like she's improving quite a bit. Like there are parts of her stand-up that actually look pretty good. Both these girls pretty tough. But the problem is, with Curran, is she's still eternally green. It's like she still hasn't put it all together yet. Moyo was able to take Curran down quite a bit. Land some ground and pound. At this point, it didn't seem like Curran had the much ability to get back to her feet when she's taking it down. She couldn't do it that easily. Standing, she did well, but here's a fundamental problem. It's like you're the taller fighter, and yet you're getting bullied. You're like 5'6" or 5'5" or something like that, like noticeably taller. And Moyle's like 5'1". It's like there's no reason why you should be getting control if you're the taller fighter and that much taller and just bigger. It just surprises me that she can get controlled into tie clinch in the plum as much as she did. Shorter fighter, able to land knees to the body and stuff, and it's like, that's a problem. That shouldn't happen with just on you know the physiological level. Just the shorter fighter in this case shouldn't have that be able to control you that easily if you're taller and bigger. But that wasn't the case. Um, Curran's working with the right people too. She's working with, like a Perillo. And I thought her boxing looked better, but she's 4-4 now in the UFC. She fought some pretty tough opponents. Like she fought Van Zant, and then she fought like um, Chambers in a fight she was like totally winning until she lost, and then they gave her Herrig, and now Moyle. So it's like she's kind of run the gamut as far as like level of opposition, and oh yeah, then she had that one win against Kagan, you know. So she needs, I can see her come back and I can see her get cut from this, and I can see her. She probably needs to go to like Invicta or something like that, get some experience there, fight some like lower level competition there too. Like, you know, I don't know if you want to give her like Mizuki Inoue right away or something like that, but or Livia Hanata Souza or like some of the better fighters. But probably just get some seasoning in the regional scene. Maybe she can come back into the UFC. Jamie Moyle, I think she's a good prospect. She's her, Daniel Taylor, Coe Hom, Watterson, even Penne are like reasons to like bring the atomweight division to the UFC because like I think Moyle could. I think there's a possibility that Jamie Moyle could be a champion at atomweight, and at like strawweight though. I mean, she's always gonna have a size disadvantage, and I've seen in Invicta she gets bullied a lot by bigger opponents. So I think she can do well. I'd be hard, and then a technical level, she's pretty good, but I'd be hard pressed to see her be able to crack like the top 10, but it's get more like mid tier, lower to mid tier guys or women of the division. Okay, on the Fight Bash prelims, Anthony Smith defeated Elvis Mutapchik by TKO in the second round. TKO, elbows and punches. Um, that first round was on to Mutapchik. He was able to get Smith to the ground, and Smith just got ground and pounded. And then, man, in the second round, he just woke up. And Smith he came back. He used his reach. His right hand, it seemed like his right hand could not miss. Then he's hitting him with, he hit him with, a good knee. Hit him with, not just, he finished him with an elbow and subsequent punches. But, he was hitting him with that elbow quite a bit. I mean, he was really hurting Mutapchik for that second round. I mean, he like I said, that right hand especially looked like it just could not miss his face. Mutapchik's probably gonna get cut after this. Anthony Smith, he because I remember him in Strikeforce, and I thought, oh, he's actually pretty good. Then he had that one fight in the UFC. Then he got cut after a loss. Then he found the regionals and actually got better. Now he's back in the UFC. It's like, hey, you know what? He's a solid mid-level middleweight. He's big. He's not the most durable guy. Like, his chin is not very good. If he can use his reach like he did here against other opponents, he does hit hard. He could be something. I don't know. He looks like he might be stuck in mid-tier purgatory, but at least he'll be like firmly entrenched here. Like he's good for an action fight. Um, he's when he's like on and awake, he is all offense and actually quite scary too, because like I said, he hits hard and he uses a lot of tools. Straight right, elbow, knees, and whatnot. He's actually, he's a dangerous guy. Because he's a finisher, and he wants to finish opponents. He kind of fades also, but this was a good win. This was a solid win. He's actually looked quite solid in his UFC tenure. And his post-fight interview, he said he wanted to stay into UFC and wanted to fight in a way that, like, I guess isn't going to take a lot of damage. So, good for him if he can find a way to kind of, not necessarily be too conservative, but just smarter. Maybe he will have a long tenure in the UFC. And finally, Devin Clark defeated Josh Stansbury by unanimous decision. Stansbury is a good test, I guess. Like, he's big, he's tough, he's not the most athletic guy, but he can do a little bit of everything, you know. And the thing with Devin Clark is able to mix in some wrestling. He's still very green. His striking didn't look too bad. He's still he leaves his chin off a couple times, especially after combinations and whatnot. But Devin Clark, he looks good at 205. He fought Alex Nicholson at 185, but I thought he looks fine at this weight class. And Stansbury, Devin Clark didn't look small. Like Stansbury's pretty big for this weight class. So, I thought Devin Clark looked fine in this weight class. And, I think Devin Clark is a solid prospect for light heavyweight. I don't know if he's like at this point, it's really hard to tell if he's going to be a standout prospect. He might just turn out to be like a Corey Anderson. Like, he kind of looks like he's going that direction where he's like, yeah, he's kind of good at everything. Doesn't have, still has defensive lapses in the stand-up, but doesn't have this like next level type of skill set. It's like, okay, you're a good wrestler, you are a good striker, you're pretty big, your cardio's not bad, but for some reason you just can't get past. There's something missing where it's like you're not great at any one aspect of MMA, and I can't help but feel that Devin Clark is heading that direction. He looks like a very, like, I guess, cookie cutter prospect. But hey, you know what? He's still young and still young in his MMA career. He's got a good solid win, under his belt here. Looks like he's in the right weight class. He can wrestle a bit. He's a good athlete, so I might be underestimating the guy for sure. Who knows? Who knows what fighter I'll see? Assuming he's still in the UFC 2, 3, 4 years down the line. So I could be way off, but just right now he looks like, okay, he's a good athlete. He can strike a bit. He can wrestle a bit. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm actually being quite critical of him. When he actually looked, you didn't look bad here. So with Devin Clark, both these guys are more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. So that's it from my post-fight analysis for the Ultimate Fighter 24 finale. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's pretty much it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.